Hey everybody, it's Jason Creel and you're watching A Lawn Care Life. Today I want to talk to you about the cost of acquiring a lawn care customer. When you're spending your money on advertising, on trying to grow your business, how much is too much to get that next customer? There's some ways that just are too expensive, and I'm going to base this on my own experience and things that I have tried, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. Let's talk about it. You know, recently I went on a trip with my family, and you know, when you go on trips, you're more likely to overspend on some things, and that's okay to some extent. It's part of, you know, being on a getaway or on the trip. We went to an ice cream shop, and my wife and kids and I, we all got what I would consider to be basically an infant's portion of ice cream, and I came out of there and my bill was $17 and something. I ate mine in about 1 minute and was wondering, did I get to actually taste it, or was that just a sample because it was so small? And when I walked into the ice cream place, I knew we were in trouble because they didn't charge by the scoop, they charged by the ounce, 65 cents per ounce. And I talked to a friend of mine, I said, that means it's expensive. And sure enough, we all get a tiny little scoop for $17 and something. And I'm thinking, I could have literally went to the grocery store and bought 5 cartons of ice cream for that same amount. But, you know, maybe it's part of the experience. I don't know. The experience seemed to be that somebody scooped it in a cup for me and handed it to me. Not much of an experience in my opinion. Well, sometimes I feel like that's what it's like when you get a lawn care customer. You think, whoa, I got a new customer. Look how excited I am. And yet I'm wondering, what did that customer cost me to acquire? Several years ago, I was trying to grow my business, and I decided to do a direct mail campaign. As was the every door direct mail through the United States Postal Service. I had heard people talk about that it was effective, and I have no doubt that it is for some people. It's a cheaper way than other options of doing direct mail. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. So I had some very nicely, professionally designed postcards printed up, not the real small ones. They were a good size. I wish I had one here to show you, but I don't at the moment. I paid for 10,000 of them to be printed, and then had them shipped out, and there was some work involved. I mean, the printing company does the printing and ships them to me, but then with the every door direct mail, you have to put them in bundles of 100 and take them around to your local post office to be delivered, and you know, just pick which zip codes you want them to go to. And so that's what I did. And so a good bit of work, good bit of driving around the different post offices, and out of about 10,000 postcards, I think I might have mailed, you know, 9,000 of them. I spent around $3,600 between having the postcards printed and then mail them out to different customers. With that $3,600 investment, I got somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 customers. I didn't keep up with it exactly, but I don't think it was no more than 20, and probably, you know, closer to 15 if I remember correctly. Well, I was happy to have 15 to 20 new customers, no doubt, but I thought, was that worth $3,600 plus the amount of time I put into it? And the clear answer to me was no, it was not. Now, when you talk to marketing people, what do they tell you in that situation? They say, well, you know, it takes more than one time to do it. You gotta send it out again, and it's send it out again. Something it may take 7 times on average for that person to become a buyer who's seen your ad. And I'm thinking, well, you know what, there's a disconnect sometimes between marketing people and between business owners, because a marketing person says, yeah, mail it out 7 times. Well, 7 times $3,600 is somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000. Okay, so if that's what it took to me to get this person to be a customer, and then, you know, there's no guarantee you're going to get them then. If it don't work then, you say, well, let's tweak the picture on the front, or maybe, you know, do some different wording or something like that. And I had a nice one. I mean, I had a really nice ad. The picture was very attention grabbing, had my phone number, had a special offer on the back. You flipped it over, there was testimonials. I mean, I thought, this thing is great, and it just didn't deliver the way I had thought, even though I felt like I didn't cut corners and I did it right. Listen, there's no doubt direct mail works. A lot of my competitors are doing it. I'm pretty sure I've gotten at least 3 of these in my mailbox from one of my competitors already this year, and others are doing it. So I don't doubt that it does work. My point is that it is expensive. I was spending well over $200 per customer to get these customers, plus the time that I had invested in it. Not worth it in my opinion. I've also done a different form of direct mail before. One of these where you have a cheap little piece of paper ad mixed in with about 25 or 30 other ads, and it's significantly cheaper to send that out. It went out to 10,000 different homes. I think it cost me $300, and on average I would get maybe 3 customers from it. Well, that's down to $100 per customer, which I think is actually quite reasonable, or at least much more reasonable than before. But I didn't do that because, again, I still didn't think that was a great return, and the 3 customers, you know, may not stick with you. It just wasn't enough to, again, justify it in my mind. Now, I think there's some truth to what the marketers are saying, that sometimes your ad needs to be in front of people more than one time to convert. I understand that. I get that. There is some truth to that. But the point is, for a lot of us smaller companies, we can't simply afford to just drop huge marketing budgets over and over and over and over and over again, hoping that on the 7th time they're going to convert. The large companies are the ones that usually can afford to do this. And even if you're using things like Google AdWords, or you're using Facebook ads or things like that, they can be cheaper. Yes, it may need to appear before that customer multiple times, especially if they're not familiar with the company, and that repeat branding over and over again can ultimately lead to a higher conversion percentage over time. So I'm not neglecting what the marketers are saying. I'm simply saying it's too expensive to drop $3,600 7 times and getting 20 customers each time. Or, you know, like I said, maybe it would have gone up slightly, but if it went up to 40, I don't think I would have been satisfied, to be honest with you. So for me, and I've covered this in other videos, the 2 things that I try to focus on in my business that are cheap as ways to get customers. And like I said, if you want to do postcards, door hangers, things like that, you can put them out by hand or hire somebody. That's a lot of walking. Or if you're paying somebody, then you're going to pay them to do that. But the good thing about that is you can be very direct in the houses you're targeting. Where when it goes out by every door direct mail or some other form of direct mail, you can't be as direct on your targeting most of the time. Or if you are direct, then it's going to be expensive. So what I do, I get a lot of customers from my website. Being ranked organically on Google has been one of the best things that I've done. That's not something that happens overnight. It's easier to do in a less competitive market. But once you get ranked and start getting those leads on the internet, those are literally free. I mean, obviously you put some time in it. There's time and money involved in a website. But that's kind of a one-time expense. Maybe you're paying ongoing for search engine optimization, but still, it turns out to be some of the cheapest leads that you're going to get. And even a cheaper way, in my opinion, is initiating relationships with other people who can send you business. So when I was mowing grass, I wanted to get to know all the people doing weed control and fertilization I could, so they could send me some mowing customers. And if I'm doing weed control and fertilization, I want to build relationships with the ones that are mowing grass so they can send me customers. And maybe if you do that, you send them a thank you of some type, maybe a $50 for every customer they send, or some other way to thank you. Or maybe you send them customers, they send you customers, and it kind of balances out. Either way, if you can build relationships with key people who are able to send you customers, that is a very good way to build your business. Going door to door is scary and intimidating and not always legal in some areas, but if it is and you're able to do it, that is obviously a very cheap way that you can convert people on the spot. But just to give you a number, I think, and I believe I read this on a Real Green, is a software out there that they had some helpful marketing information. I think they were saying kind of $100 or less would be acceptable as for acquiring a customer. Now, where I would want to comment on that is, well, it depends on what kind of customer you're getting, and I would go back to the direct mail illustration. If you're sending multiple direct mail campaigns to a very targeted area that you know is wealthy, and your average job is a $10,000 landscape installation, then to me that's worth it. You know what? What if it cost me $200, $300, $400 to get that customer, and then boom, I got $10,000 on the one job? I think that's worth it. But for those of us that are doing mowing or weed control and fertilization, things like that, where you're not going to get that huge return, and yes, I understand that you might keep a customer for 5 or 10 years and eventually it'll pay for itself. But again, I'm thinking $100 or less, and I really am not comfortable with $100. I I want to get closer to 50 per customer acquisition. Now, if you're a big company making tons of money and you got a bigger marketing budget, then you can afford to go on these direct mail campaigns or pay other strategies out there. And like I said, for small companies, you can still use Facebook marketing and Google AdWords to build you an ad campaign, and those things can get expensive too. Sometimes you need somebody that knows what they're doing to be able to set that ad up for you, to drive your costs down, your cost per click, to get those lower and to make it more targeted, to make it more effective so that the cost of each customer is less. Like in many things, some of us have to learn these the hard way, and being able to grow your business and be able to learn what works and what doesn't work. And that story of me with the direct mail was a lesson learned, and something that I may or may not ever do again, but it's not something that's on my radar anytime soon. This should also be a reminder of why it's a good idea, in my opinion, to give a referral fee back to a customer who sends you referrals, maybe $50, that's what I typically do, a credit to their account. And they're very appreciative of that. But again, when I look at it, hey, $50 was a cheap acquisition of a customer. Now, let me say one exception to this rule of trying to keep your costs down where you might pay more is if you're acquiring somebody's entire business. There's a few reasons why that can be helpful. One, you may be putting a competitor out of business. You may be acquiring some equipment along with the customers. And then two, it's a huge amount of growth at one time, where when you're getting a few customers here or there, it's a smaller growth and you're not growing necessarily all in the same area. When you acquire someone's entire book of business, you've just increased your route density, hopefully by a lot. If they're in the same area, you've reduced a competitor, and now you've hopefully become more profitable. So in those situations, you might pay a little bit more. You might not have to, but I'm just saying they might be willing to pay more because it's a different circumstances of being able to bring on that whole book of business at one time and take a huge step of growth in your business. And to close out on the ice cream illustration, I think as my kids get older that I would like to give them a certain amount of money on a trip and they want to buy a souvenir, they want to buy ice cream, and I say, okay, y'all have to manage your own money. If they want to go pay $3 for a scoop of ice cream, that's fine. If one of the other ones wants to go across the street and pay $3 for a carton of ice cream, then that's fine. But let them manage their own money so that they can learn these life lessons on their own and learn the value of a dollar. And that's what I've had to do in my own business, learning what worked. Was that $3,600 direct mail campaign worth it? In my opinion, no. But I had to do it to learn that. Maybe you can learn it from my lesson, but oftentimes we have to do these things and learn what works for us and then make an effective strategy going forward. Hey, listen, there's a lot of good marketing out there, but it costs different amounts of money. That's the way I think about a lot of things. You know, is this a great lawnmower? Is this a great whatever? I mean, yeah, of course it is, but how much does it cost, and is it worth it? Is a smart decision for my business and my current situation? Because if it's free, hey, I want to do direct mail all day. But if it costs this much per customer acquisition, it may not be a smart business decision for me. Thanks for watching the video. I'm Jason Creel. There's some other suggested videos popping up for you now. You can click on my channel and go look at my channel. Got over 500 videos available. But thanks for supporting the channel. Look forward to talking to you later. Let me hear from you in the comments about your marketing, about your cost to acquire a customer. Are there some things you're doing that have brought your costs down, and some strategies you're using? If you want to share those with the audience, we would appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye.